How can a cheap DNA kit change your whole life in one email? How can a stranger's lawyers say you are the only son of a billionaire you never met, and that you now own his company, his home, and his life's work? Why did my hands go cold when they added that someone tried to remove my name from the estate papers? My name is Aaron Cole. I am 35. I work as a building maintenance supervisor in a luxury condo downtown. People see the uniform, the tool bag, and the service elevator key, and they decide who I am before I even speak. Most days I let it slide. I fix what is broken. I keep the lights on. I keep the water hot. I keep the alarms quiet. I go home tired and try to be calm. That week started like any other. I was in the basement workshop before sunrise. The workshop is a small room with a metal table, shelves of parts, and a smell of dust and cleaner. The building looks shiny upstairs, but the basement is where the truth lives. Pipes, wires, boxes of filters, a cabinet of paint cans. It is not pretty, but it is honest. I like honest places. I had 3 work orders before breakfast. A unit had a leaking sink. A hallway sensor light kept blinking. A resident complained that the gym treadmill made noise. I looked at the list, made a simple plan, and started moving. I always move the same way. Slow steps, clear notes. I do not rush, because rushing makes mistakes, and mistakes give people an excuse to talk down to you. By 9, the lobby was full of morning energy. Residents in clean coats, delivery people with carts, the concierge desk with the same smooth smiles. I walked through with my clipboard and a small toolbox. I nodded at the concierge, and he nodded back. He was polite, but his eyes were tired. He had seen the way people acted when they thought someone worked for them. I was near the mailboxes when I heard my name said like it was a complaint. A resident named Candace was standing with 2 other women. She had a phone in her hand and a small dog on a short leash. The dog kept pulling. Candace looked at me and started speaking without any greeting. She said the hallway near her unit smelled strange, and she wanted it fixed now. She said the smell was unacceptable for the fees she paid. She said she would call the property manager if I did not handle it right away. I told her I understood, and I asked which hallway. I spoke like I always speak. Calm, simple, no extra words. Candace did not answer the question first. She made a show of looking me up and down. She said I always had excuses. She said I should be grateful I had a job in a place like this. One of the women with her laughed softly, like it was a joke they all shared. A few people in the lobby turned their heads, not because it was loud, but because it was sharp. A man waiting for the elevator looked at the floor. A delivery worker kept his eyes on his cart. The concierge did not move, but his mouth got tighter. I felt the familiar heat in my face, the one that comes when you are being talked at, not talked to. I asked again which hallway. Candace finally said the floor number and waved her phone toward me like a pointer. She said she would take a picture if I did not fix it right. She said she was tired of these people not doing their jobs. I did not reply to that part. I only wrote down the location. I said I would check it within the hour. Then she stepped closer and pointed at my clipboard. She said I should put it in writing that I would fix it today. She said she wanted my full name so she could report me if I failed. My full name is on my badge. It was right there. But she wanted me to say it out loud. She wanted the lobby to hear it, like a roll call. I told her my name and my role. I told her the maintenance team tracks all work orders. I told her she could email the property manager if she needed updates. Candace smiled like she had won something small. She said that was better. She said she would be watching. I walked away with my shoulders steady. I did not run. I did not slam anything. I did not even sigh. People like Candace feed on reactions. I learned that a long time ago, long before this building. I was adopted as a baby. I grew up in a quiet house where feelings were often kept inside. My adoptive parents were kind, but they were also careful people. They taught me to stay controlled. They said control keeps you safe. I went up to the hallway Candace named. I checked the vent, the trash chute area, and the small utility closet. The smell was not coming from the building. It was coming from a bag left outside a door. A resident had put food waste in a thin bag and left it there overnight. It was warm in the hallway. Anyone could have guessed what would happen. I called the concierge for a quick pickup and wiped the floor. 10 minutes of work. Problem solved. When I returned to the lobby, Candace was still there. She watched me walk in like she was a supervisor. She asked if I had handled it. I said the issue was addressed. I did not explain more. I did not say who left the bag. I did not think it would help. Candace looked disappointed, like she wanted a longer scene. Then she turned to the other women and said she hoped the building would hire better help soon. She said it like she was talking about changing a brand of paper towels. I heard it. The concierge heard it. Omar was nearby too, coming in from the service entrance with a box of filters. Omar is my friend at work. He is a few years younger than me, but he has an old soul. He keeps his voice calm even when he is angry. He looked at me, then looked at Candace, then looked back at me. He did not say anything, but I could read his face. He was telling me, without words, that it was not fair. The property manager walked in a few minutes later. His name is Trevor. He is in his late 20s, always in a fitted jacket, always carrying a tablet. He likes to talk fast and smile wide. Trevor asked the lobby if everything was okay. Candace spoke right away. She said she had to manage maintenance again. She said the building needed more professional staff. Trevor laughed lightly and said he would look into it. He did not look at me when he said it. Trevor then called a quick staff huddle near the concierge desk. He said we had to raise standards because residents were paying for a premium experience. He said the maintenance team needed to be more visible and responsive. Then he said Candace's complaint had been fixed quickly because of good teamwork. He did not say my name. He did not say I handled it alone. He made it sound like I was just a pair of hands in the background. I stood there and listened. I told myself it was not personal. I told myself it was business. But I felt the same old thing in my chest. That sense of being used and then erased. It was not the first time. It was just the cleanest example. I watched Trevor talk like he was a leader, while he avoided the part where respect should be. When my shift ended, I drove home in silence. Traffic was slow. The sky was gray. My hands stayed steady on the wheel. I did not replay the scene in a dramatic way. I just lined up the facts like a list. Candace wanted power. Trevor wanted to keep residents happy and keep himself looking important. Neither of them cared what the truth was, as long as the story fit what they wanted. Home was an apartment we rented on the edge of the city. It was not small, but it was not fancy. We had clean floors, plain furniture, and a kitchen that always felt a little too quiet at night. My wife, Nina, was on the couch when I walked in. She was scrolling on her phone. She looked up, looked at my uniform, and sighed, like the uniform itself offended her. Nina is 34. She is smart and charming in public. She knows how to smile and make people feel like she belongs anywhere. When we first met, that energy pulled me in. I thought she was confident. I thought she was warm. Over time, I learned she liked comfort more than connection. She liked stability, but she also liked the idea of something bigger, something brighter. She liked to say she deserved nice things. I put my keys in the bowl and started washing my hands. Nina asked how my day was, but she asked it in a flat way, like checking a box. I said it was busy. She asked if I had handled that building drama again. I told her there was a resident complaint, and it got resolved. Nina smirked. She said those people always think they can talk down to staff. Then she paused and added that I should not take it so seriously. She said I was built for being the calm one. I opened the fridge and looked for something simple to eat. Nina kept talking. She said she had lunch with a friend who worked in marketing. She said her friend's partner had just bought a new car. She said everyone around her was moving forward. Then she looked at me and said I should think about doing something bigger. She said maintenance was safe, but safe was not attractive. She said she did not want to feel like she was stuck. I did not argue. I asked what she meant by bigger. Nina said she meant money, status, and options. She said she wanted to travel. She said she wanted a home that made people stop and stare. She said she was tired of being the person who married simple. She did not say it with anger. She said it like a fact, like a weather report. I sat at the table and started eating standing up, because I did not feel ready to sit. Nina leaned back on the couch and watched me. She said she had always admired how I stayed calm. She said other men get loud and make scenes. She said she liked that I never did that. Then she said something that landed hard. She said sometimes she wondered if I stayed calm because I had no backbone. I looked at her for a moment. I asked her what she wanted from me. Nina said she wanted me to step up. She said she wanted me to stop being grateful and start being demanding. She said I acted like I should be happy anyone wanted me at all. Then she added, in the same smooth tone, that my adoption story probably made me like that. She said I was always scared someone would send me away again. That sentence made the room feel smaller. Nina had never said it like that before. She had joked about my adoption in light ways, but this was different. It was sharp, it was aimed. It was a line meant to push me into proving something. I felt my throat tighten, but I did not raise my voice. I told her that was not fair. I told her my past was not a tool for her to use in an argument. Nina shrugged like my words did not matter. She said she was just being honest. She said honesty was better than pretending. She said if I wanted to keep her, I should listen. She said other people would not treat me as gently as she did. She said I should be thankful she chose a man who was stable because she could have chosen someone more exciting. She let that last word hang in the air like a prize I did not earn. I finished eating. I rinsed my plate. I put it in the sink. My hands moved on their own, like I was watching myself from far away. I did not feel anger. I felt clarity starting to form, but it was still quiet, still small. I told Nina I was going to take a shower. I told her we could talk later when we were both calm. Nina said she was calm already. She said I was the one who always needed time. In the bathroom, the water ran hot and steady. I stared at the tiles and listened to the sound. I thought about Candace in the lobby. I thought about Trevor giving a speech and leaving my name out. I thought about Nina's words, how she turned my life story into a way to control me. I did not tell myself a dramatic story. I just admitted something simple. People were comfortable treating me like I would never push back. That night, I sat at the kitchen table after Nina went to bed. The apartment was quiet. The streetlight outside made a pale line on the floor. I opened my phone and checked tomorrow's work orders. Then I closed it and sat still. I told myself I could keep living like this. I could keep fixing things and being erased. I could keep trying to be enough for people who kept moving the line. Or I could start paying attention. I could start taking notes. I could start choosing my words and my steps with more care. I did not make a big promise to myself. I did not plan revenge. I did not imagine scenes. I simply sat there, calm and awake, and accepted that something had changed in me. I was done pretending that disrespect was just part of life. After that night, I started noticing details I used to ignore. It was not only one bad comment in the lobby, it was a pattern. The pattern had been growing for years. I did not see it at first because I was focused on being steady. I thought being steady was the same as being respected. It is not. I was adopted as a baby. My adoptive parents, Glenn and Mara, never hid that from me. They told me early and they told me with care. They said family is built by showing up, not by sharing a last name. They worked normal jobs. They paid bills on time. They kept our home quiet and safe. We did not talk loud. We did not throw words like rocks. If something hurt, we handled it with calm voices and time. That taught me a lot of good things. It also taught me a habit that did not help me later. I learned to be grateful for any place I was given. I learned to keep my needs small. I learned to solve problems alone so I would not bother anyone. I thought that made me strong. Sometimes it did. Sometimes it made me easy to use. I met Nina when I was 29. I was working 2 jobs then. I did maintenance in the day, and I helped a friend with weekend repair work. Nina worked in a salon and did social media content for local businesses. She had bright energy. She knew how to talk to strangers. She knew how to make a room notice her without being loud. When she focused on you, it felt like you mattered. At the start, she said she liked that I was calm. She said she was tired of men who acted important but did nothing. She said she wanted a man who kept his word. I liked hearing that. It fit the image I had of myself. I was not flashy. I was not dramatic. I showed up, I listened, and I fixed what I could. The first year was easy. Nina would hold my arm when we walked. She would post pictures of simple dinners and say she loved quiet life. When I talked about my adoption, she acted curious. She asked careful questions. She said my parents sounded kind. She said it was nice that I did not come with family chaos. At the time, I thought she meant peace. Later, I understood she meant control. After we got married, Nina started changing the way she spoke about things. It was small at first. She would compare our life to the lives of people she followed online. She would say her friends were leveling up. She would show me a photo of someone's vacation and say we should do that too. I would ask how we would pay for it. Nina would say we would figure it out. When I said we had to plan, she would sigh and say, I always made things heavy. I worked more hours to give her the life she wanted. I took extra shifts. I handled weekend calls. I said yes when residents needed something after hours. I told myself it was normal. I told myself a husband provides stability. Nina liked stability. She liked knowing the rent would be paid. She liked knowing her car would have fuel. She liked knowing she could buy small luxuries without worry. But she also started treating stability like it was not a gift. She treated it like a baseline she deserved. If I did not give more, she acted like I was holding her back. When she was upset, she would talk about how other women had partners who moved faster. She did not say I was bad. She said I was slow. She said I was comfortable. She said comfort was the enemy of growth. I tried to talk about it calmly. I asked what she needed from me. Nina said she needed ambition. She said she did not want to be married to a man who was invisible. She said she wanted to walk into places where people looked at us and assumed we mattered. I told her I could not change the world overnight. I told her we could set goals and build over time. Nina said time was the one thing she did not want to waste. Looking back, I see how she tested me. She would push, then watch what I did. If I stayed calm and tried to solve it, she would push again. If I finally set a boundary, she would act shocked and hurt. Then she would become sweet again, and I would feel guilty for upsetting her. I did not notice the loop at first because I kept focusing on keeping peace. There were also signs in public. Nina would correct me in front of her friends, even when it was small. If I misremembered a date, she would interrupt to fix it. If I told a story, she would finish it in her own words. If someone asked what I did for work, she would answer for me, saying I kept the building running. She made it sound both useful and small at the same time. I started hearing the same kind of tone from other people too. At the building, residents would talk to me like I could not understand simple things. They would demand immediate attention even when there was a line of other tasks. Trevor, the property manager, would smile and say we were a team, but he would only use my name when something went wrong. When something went right, he would present it like his leadership made it happen. There was one moment that stayed with me. We had a water issue on one floor. I found the cause and fixed it fast. It prevented damage and saved the building a big repair. Trevor sent a building-wide message saying the issue was resolved thanks to management's quick response. He did not mention the maintenance team. Later, in person, he told me good job and said we should keep it quiet because residents did not need details. He made it sound like my work was something to hide, not something to respect. At home, Nina noticed I was tired more often. She did not ask how to help. She asked why I looked worn out. She said I was starting to look older than I was. She said I should work out more and dress better. When I said my job was physical, and I was already moving all day, she said, moving at work did not count. She said effort should show results. She said she wanted to feel proud standing next to me. I also started seeing how Nina reacted to money. If I bought her a small gift, she would smile and post it. If I said no to a larger expense, she would go quiet and pull away. She would say she understood, but she would make the apartment feel cold. She would scroll on her phone and barely answer me. She would act like I failed a test. In those years, I stayed close to my adoptive parents. Glenn and Mara are not rich, but they are steady people. They invite us for simple dinners. They ask about my work. They try to include Nina. Nina would come sometimes, but she never looked comfortable there. She would sit at the table and talk about trends and expensive restaurants. My mother would smile politely. My father would listen and nod. When we left, Nina would say my parents were kind, but small world. She would say she did not want to live like that forever. I also had Omar at work. He saw more than most people. When I stayed late, he stayed too. When residents talked down to me, he would step closer, like his presence could block some of the disrespect. One day, after a resident complained loudly about a repair schedule, Omar told me I handled it well. He said some people target calm men because they want to feel powerful. I told him it did not matter. He told me it mattered to my life, even if it did not matter to the building. The deeper change came when Nina started talking like my role in her life was temporary. Not in direct words, but in hints. She would say things like she did not want to be stuck. She would say she needed to keep her options open. She would joke about upgrading her life, then watch my face to see if I reacted. If I asked what she meant, she would act like I could not take a joke. If I stayed quiet, she would smile like she learned something. That is how the disrespect grows. It grows when it has no cost. A few days after the lobby scene with Candace, Omar and I took a short break near the service entrance. He had his coffee. I had water. We were both tired. He asked if things were okay at home. I told him it was normal stress. Omar said normal stress should not feel like you are always failing. Then he told me about a DNA kit he had tried years ago. He said it was simple. He said he did it for fun. He said it helped him learn small things about his background. I laughed and said my background was a blank page. Omar said that was exactly why it could be useful. He said I did not have to make it a big deal. He said it could be a private thing, just for me. He said sometimes answers are not about drama. Sometimes they are about peace. At home that night, Nina was in a good mood. She had been out with friends and came back with energy. She talked fast, telling me who wore what, who got invited to where, who was dating someone with money. I listened while I cleaned the kitchen. At one point, she looked at me and asked why I was quiet. I told her work was heavy. Nina said I should stop letting people treat me like background. She said I should be more like the men she met at events. She said they spoke like they owned the room. She said I could learn from them if I tried. When I told her I was fine, she said fine was not a goal. She said fine was a trap. I did not tell her about Omar's DNA kit idea right away. I kept it to myself because I did not trust the way she would use it. I did not even fully trust my own reason for wanting it. Part of me wanted answers. Part of me wanted to prove I was not a small person with a small life. I did not like that part of me, but it was there. 2 days later, on my lunch break, I ordered a DNA kit. I did it from my phone while sitting in my car. I told myself it was just curiosity. I told myself it would not change anything. I told myself it was a small joke, a small experiment, a way to learn something without asking anyone for help. When the package arrived, I did not open it in front of Nina. I brought it to the apartment and put it in a drawer in my home office corner. Nina noticed the package later and asked what it was. I told her it was a DNA kit I ordered for fun. She laughed and asked if I expected to find a royal family. I said I expected nothing. She said that was my problem. She said I always expected nothing, and that was why nothing big happened for me. I did not answer her. I just watched her face and stored the moment in my mind. It was another small piece in the pattern. Nina did not care about my identity. She cared about what my identity could buy. That week, I kept working. I kept fixing things. I kept being calm. But inside, I stopped telling myself the old story that patience always earns respect. I started telling myself a new, quieter truth. If people see you as replaceable, they will treat you that way until something forces them to stop. The DNA kit sat in my drawer for 2 days before I used it. I waited for a quiet moment when Nina was out. I did not want her watching. I did not want her jokes or her comments. I told myself it was just a personal thing, something for my own mind. When I finally did it, I followed the instructions, sealed it, and put it in the mail drop box outside the pharmacy near our apartment. I stood there for a second with my hands in my jacket pockets. The air was cold. The street was busy. No one around me had any idea what I just sent. That made it feel strange and private at the same time. After that, life went back to routine. Work orders, complaints, small repairs that kept large people comfortable, Nina's moods moving like weather. I did not talk about the kid again. I let time pass. Then, one afternoon, my phone rang while I was in the building's basement workshop. I was sorting filters and checking a checklist for the next week. The number was not saved. I almost ignored it, but something made me answer. A woman's voice came through, careful and professional. She said she was calling from a legal office that handled private matters for high-net-worth clients. She said my name, first and last, and asked if I was the right person. I said yes. She asked if I had a moment to talk privately. I looked around the workshop, shut the door, and said I could listen. She said they had received information from a genetic matching service that suggested I may be related to a man named Victor Voss. I knew the name. Almost everyone in the city knew it. His face had been on magazines. His company had sponsored events. His name was on a building downtown. He was not someone normal people expected to connect to. The woman did not talk like she wanted to impress me. She talked like she wanted to confirm facts. She said they were doing identity verification for an estate transition. She said they needed to confirm if I had ever been adopted, and if I had any documents that could support my identity. She said they would handle it properly, but I needed to take it seriously and keep it private for now. I did not know what to say. My throat felt tight, not from panic, but from the way the words did not fit in my life. I asked how they got my contact information. She said it came through standard tracing steps after a potential match, using public records and basic data checks. She said this was routine in their world. She said it might feel sudden in mine. I told her I understood. I asked what they wanted from me right now. She said they would send a meeting request and a list of verification steps. She said there was no pressure to rush, but there were timelines and many moving parts. She said in a calm tone that there had already been confusion and noise around beneficiary listings. She said they wanted to prevent mistakes. I asked what she meant by noise. She paused and said there had been attempts to clarify the beneficiary structure in ways that did not match the earlier file notes. She said she could not explain more on the phone. She said the safest path was to follow process and keep everything documented. When the call ended, I stood still in the workshop with my phone in my hand. The room felt smaller than before. I could hear the building's systems humming through the walls. I tried to place my feelings into words. I could not. It was like my mind was resorting itself. I did not call Nina. I did not call my parents. I did not even call Omar right away. I walked upstairs, finished one repair, and kept my face neutral. My hands did their job, even while my mind kept replaying one line: confusion around beneficiary listings. That evening, I told Omar I needed to talk for a minute. We stood near the service entrance where it was quieter. I told him I got a strange call related to the DNA kit. I did not say the name at first. Omar asked if it sounded real. I said the voice was too controlled to be a prank. Omar told me to treat it like it mattered. He told me to write down everything: date, time, what was said. He said calm men forget details because they want to move on. He said I should not move on. At home, Nina was in the kitchen when I walked in. She glanced at me like she was reading my mood. I tried to act normal. I washed my hands, took off my jacket, and asked how her day was. She answered quickly, then asked about mine. I said it was busy. Nina watched me for a second and then asked why my phone was on silent. I had put it on silent after the call, without thinking. I said I was tired of hearing notifications. Nina said I never used silent before. She said that was suspicious. Her tone was playful, but her eyes were sharp. I said it was nothing. Nina stepped closer and asked if someone from work had called. I said no. She asked if I was hiding something from her. I told her I was not hiding anything. Nina smiled like she had caught me in a small lie anyway. She said if I had a secret, it should at least be a good one. That night, while Nina was in the shower, my phone lit up with an email notification. The subject line was simple and formal. It included the name of the legal office. My heart started moving faster. I did not open it right away. I stared at it and took a breath. I opened it after Nina came out of the bathroom and went into the bedroom. The email was short. It asked me to confirm a meeting time at a hotel conference space. It mentioned identity verification steps. It used the name Victor Voss again. It also included one sentence about safeguarding the process due to recent irregular contact from interested parties. I read it twice, then put my phone down on the table. I sat there and listened to the quiet of the apartment. This was not just a surprise family connection. This was a system with money and power and people who wanted control. The next morning, Nina's behavior changed. She was suddenly cheerful. She made coffee and asked what I wanted for breakfast. That sounds normal, but it was not normal for her lately. She was warm in a way that felt timed. While we ate, she asked again about the DNA kit. She said she had been thinking. She said it could be interesting. She said maybe I would find a wealthy relative who wanted to help. She laughed softly, like it was a joke, but her eyes stayed on my face. She was measuring me. I kept my voice calm. I told her I had not gotten results yet. Nina said those things often send updates. She said I should show her when it came. I told her I would share what I felt comfortable sharing. Nina's smile tightened. She said partners do not keep secrets. She said I was too private sometimes. She said it made her feel like she did not matter. I did not argue. I said I heard her. Then I left for work. That day, the unknown calls started, not from the legal office, from other numbers. Short calls that ended when I answered. A voicemail that had only silence, then a text that simply said they wanted to help me handle the situation correctly. It did not say what situation. It did not say who they were. It was written like a person who assumed I would understand. I showed Omar the message at work. He told me not to respond. He told me to take screenshots. He told me to create a simple folder on my phone and name it something boring. He said boring names make people less curious if they see it. He said to treat it like work, organized and quiet. That night, Nina asked to borrow my phone to check a photo she had taken. She said her phone was low on battery. I handed it to her, but I watched her hands. She opened the gallery, then swiped to notifications. It was quick, but I saw it. She was not looking for a photo. She was looking for something else. I held out my hand and asked for the phone back. Nina laughed and said I was acting strange. I said I wanted my phone. She gave it back, but her expression changed. She said I was becoming controlling. She said it was not a good look. I told her I needed privacy. Nina said privacy is what people demand when they are planning to leave. She said she would not be made to look foolish. She said she deserved honesty. I stood there and listened without matching her energy. I told her I was not leaving, but I was also not going to be pushed around. Nina blinked at that. It was like she was not used to hearing that line from me. A day later, Nina told me she had run into someone connected. She said it casually over dinner, like she was telling me about a new restaurant. She said the person knew people in the business world and had heard there might be a messy estate transition involving the Voss name. She said the person could introduce us to someone who could guide us. I asked how this person knew about that. Nina shrugged and said, "People talk." She said news moves fast in certain circles. She said, I should not be offended. She said, I should be smart and accept help. Then she added that I should be careful not to say the wrong thing to the wrong person. She said I did not understand how these worlds work. Her words were meant to make me feel small. They almost worked. But something in me had already shifted. I did not feel angry. I felt clear. Nina was not trying to protect me. She was trying to position herself. That evening, I went to my small home office corner and opened a notebook. I wrote down a timeline. I wrote down dates and times. The call from the legal office, the email, the unknown texts, Nina's questions, her sudden warmth. I did not write emotional thoughts. I wrote facts. It felt like building a wall, one brick at a time. The next morning, I found a folder on the kitchen table. It was plain, like a cheap office folder. Inside were printed pages with large headings and blank signature lines. I did not read them closely. I did not need to. The point was not the words. The point was that it was placed there without my permission. A sticky note was on the front, Nina's handwriting. She wrote that I should sign before it gets complicated, and that she had a friend who said this was the easy path. I carried the folder into my office corner and put it on the desk. Nina watched me. She asked if I was going to be stubborn. She asked if I was going to ruin an opportunity out of fear. She said I was always scared of losing what I had, so I never reached for more. I looked at her and kept my voice even. I told her I would not sign anything without proper advice. I told her I would follow the official process. I told her I would handle it the right way. Nina's face went flat. She said the right way is slow and expensive. She said slow gives other people time to take what should be ours. She said I was letting myself be pushed out again, like I had been pushed out at the start of my life. That line was meant to hurt me. It did. But it also made the last piece click into place. This was not a marriage conversation anymore. This was a pressure campaign. She was using my history as a lever. She was pushing me toward a rushed decision that helped someone else. I did not shout. I did not slam the folder. I simply told her to stop. I told her my past was not a weapon for her to use. I told her if she wanted to support me, she could respect the boundaries I set. If she could not, she could sit with her own feelings and stop turning them into demands. Nina stared at me like she was seeing a new person. Then she turned away and said I was making a mistake. She said I would regret being so cautious. She said, people like me do not get chances like this twice. When she walked into the bedroom and shut the door, I stayed at the table for a long time. The apartment was quiet again, but it did not feel peaceful. It felt like a room where someone was waiting to take something. I picked up my notebook and added one more line to the timeline. I wrote, in simple words, that pressure had moved from strangers to my own home. Then I set my phone face down and took a slow breath. I did not know everything yet. I did not have a full picture. But I knew enough to stop pretending. From that moment, I treated every call, every message, and every friendly advice as part of a larger push. And I decided I would not respond with emotion. I would respond with structure. I kept my timeline in a notebook and treated it like a work log. I did not add feelings. I added dates, times, and what happened. If I was not sure, I left it blank and waited. That alone changed my posture. It made me slower to react and faster to remember. I started to see how often Nina tried to guide my choices with pressure instead of trust. The first thing I did was make my life quieter on purpose. I stopped leaving my phone on the counter. I stopped sharing my schedule without being asked. I stopped filling silence with explanations. Nina noticed right away. She asked why I was acting different. I said I was tired and needed space to think. She said space is what people ask for when they are planning something. I told her I was planning to be careful, nothing more. I kept my voice even and my words short. At work, I did the same thing. I stopped taking on extra tasks just to prove I was helpful. I handled my assigned work, I documented everything, and I left on time when I could. Trevor did not like it. He liked staff who ran on fear and approval. He asked if I was checked out. I told him I was focused, and I was following the work order system. He smiled like he understood, but he kept watching me. I could feel him looking for an opening. Candace, the resident from the lobby, filed another complaint 2 days later. This time, she said I was cold and unfriendly. The concierge showed me the note with a tired face. He did not say the resident was wrong or right. He only said people like that do not want a repair. They want control. I thanked him and asked him to add it to the resident log. He nodded like he was relieved I did not argue. That night, I called my adoptive parents. I did not tell them everything. I only told them I had done a DNA test, and it raised questions. My mother went quiet. Then she asked if I was okay. My father asked if someone was bothering me. I said I was okay and I was handling it properly. My mother said she supported me, whatever I found out. My father said to be careful and to stay calm. Hearing that grounded me. It reminded me that not everyone in my life measured me like a tool. The next day, I went to the adoption agency records office on my lunch break. It was a plain building with a small waiting room and a reception desk. The air smelled like paper and old carpet. People there did not act impressed by anything, and that was comforting. A staff member named Maribel met me with a clipboard and a neutral expression. She explained what they could release and what they could not, and what steps were needed for identity checks. She spoke in simple, careful phrases. No drama, no hints, just process. I told her I wanted to request my file history and any non-sensitive records that matched my identity. Maribel asked for identification and explained expected timelines. She did not promise anything fast. She did not treat me like I was special. She treated me like a person doing a normal request. That felt like a kind of respect I had not felt in a while. Before I left, she reminded me to keep copies of any communication I received from outside parties and to not sign anything under pressure. She said people often panic when family questions turn into legal questions. She said calm actions protect you more than fast actions. After that, I went to my local bank branch. I did not do anything dramatic. I simply opened a new account and moved my direct deposit to it. I also set up alerts for my card and transactions. I had learned over the years that money problems grow in silence. Nina liked to treat shared money like a shared mood. If she felt excited, she spent. If she felt ignored, she spent. When I questioned it, she said I was counting pennies instead of living. I decided I would not argue anymore. I would structure it. When I got home, Nina asked why I seemed organized all of a sudden. She said I never cared about systems before. I told her I always cared, but I used to carry it in my head. I said I wanted less stress, so I was putting things in order. Nina acted like she believed me. Then she asked again about the legal office and whether I had gotten more messages. Her voice was soft, but her attention was sharp. I told her I was handling it, and that I would share what mattered when it was appropriate. Her expression tightened. She asked what appropriate meant. I said appropriate meant verified, official, and calm. Nina laughed like I was acting important. She said I love to hide behind rules. She said people with real power do not wait for permission. I told her power is not the same as safety. I told her I was choosing safety. That night, another unknown number called. I did not answer. A text came a few minutes later with a polite tone. It said they knew I was probably overwhelmed and that they could connect me with the right people to make sure I did not get taken advantage of. It also said there were others who would fight hard for what they believed was theirs, and that I should not stand alone. It was written like help, but it smelled like a trap. I saved it, screenshotted it, and added it to my boring folder name. I also made a backup routine. Every evening I copied key screenshots to a secure folder and wrote a short note in my notebook about what each item was. I did not label it with dramatic words. I labeled it with dates and simple tags like call, message, or meeting. It felt strange at first, like I was acting like a person in a movie. But after a few days, it felt normal, like checking a pressure gauge before a storm. Nina's attitude shifted again. She was warm when she thought I might reveal something. She was cold when I stayed firm. She started talking about team more than she had in months. She said we should be united if something big was happening. She said married people do not keep separate plans. Then she would slide into a different tone and remind me that I did not have real family ties the way other people do, so I should not push away the only person who chose me. She said it like she was giving advice. I heard it like a warning. At work, Trevor scheduled a building meeting about service standards. He invited department leads and the concierge team. He said he wanted to show residents that management was responsive. During the meeting, he used phrases like premium experience and accountability. He pointed out small mistakes made by staff and asked us to be better. When he spoke about wins, he spoke as if they happened by themselves. I sat there and took notes like it was a training session. Trevor tried to provoke me into speaking. He asked if I had anything to add. I said my team could meet standards easily if we kept work orders realistic and documented resident requests properly. Trevor smiled and moved on. He did not like answers that sounded like structure. A day later, Omar pulled me aside in the basement workshop. He asked if things were getting worse at home. I told him Nina was pressing more. Omar said pressure usually increases when someone thinks time is running out. He said I should take every step through official channels and keep my communication clean. He also told me to consider speaking with a professional who understood family and asset transitions. He did not say it like gossip. He said it like a man warning another man about ice on a road. That evening, I replied to the legal office email with a simple confirmation of my meeting time. I did not ask emotional questions. I did not share personal thoughts. I only confirmed I would attend and asked what identification they required. I kept the email short and polite. After I sent it, I felt calmer. It was a small act, but it placed me on a track that was not controlled by Nina or anyone who was trying to rush me. 2 days after that, Nina mentioned a name again, Ronan Voss. She said it casually while scrolling through her phone. She said he was respected in the business world and that he was basically next in line. She said it with a strange pride, like she was close to it. I asked how she knew him. Nina said she had met him through friends at a charity event. She said he was smart and confident and knew how to handle serious matters. Then she said he had mentioned, in a general way, that family claims can be messy and that people sometimes show up with fake stories. She watched me when she said fake stories. I told her my story was not a story. I told her it was either true or it was not, and professionals would confirm it. Nina said professionals can be influenced. She said people with money know how to guide outcomes. She said I should not be naive. I asked her if she was warning me or threatening me. Nina looked offended and said I was twisting her words. She said she was trying to protect us. I told her protection does not require rushing signatures or sneaking papers onto my table. The next weekend, Nina insisted we attend a small social event at a hotel lounge. She said it would be good for me to see how serious people talk. I went because I wanted to observe. The lounge was full of clean clothes, bright smiles, and quiet status games. Nina introduced me with extra energy, like she was presenting a product. She said I was a hard worker and very steady. She did not say I led a team. She did not say I managed systems that kept a building safe. She made me sound useful and plain. I noticed a man across the room watching us. He was well-dressed and relaxed, like he belonged there. Nina waved at him and guided me closer. She told me he was connected to business circles and that he gave good advice. The man shook my hand and spoke in a friendly tone. He said he had heard I might be dealing with something complicated and that I should be careful. He said people sometimes misunderstand what they are entitled to and that signing something simple early can prevent conflict. He said it like he was helping. I told him I appreciated the concern and that I was following official process. I said I did not sign anything without proper review. My tone stayed calm. The man's smile did not break, but his eyes cooled. He said I seemed stubborn. He said stubborn men get expensive lessons. Nina laughed like it was a joke and squeezed my arm, but her grip was tight. It was not affection, it was control. On the drive home, Nina criticized my behavior. She said I embarrassed her by acting cautious. She said I could have made allies. I asked her why she was working so hard to connect me with people who wanted me to sign quickly. Nina said it was because she did not want to lose what was coming. I asked her how she could talk about what was coming when nothing was confirmed. Nina said she could feel it. She said I was always behind the moment. She said if I kept acting like a small man, I would stay a small man. I did not respond with anger. I responded with distance. I told her I would not discuss it while driving. When we got home, I went to my office corner and wrote down the event. Date, location, the man's tone, Nina's reaction. I added one sentence in my notebook that felt important. I wrote that Nina was not waiting for confirmation. She was acting like an outcome was already decided. A few days later, another email arrived with a formal calendar invite. It was for a board-level meeting at Voss Meridian Group headquarters, listed as a transition session. My name was spelled correctly. There was no casual language. It was clean and official. I stared at it for a long time. I did not forward it to Nina. I did not even mention it. Instead, I printed nothing, signed nothing, and told no one outside my safe circle. I kept going to work, doing my job, and staying calm. I kept organizing what came in and limiting what went out. Nina continued to swing between sweetness and pressure, but she was getting less patient. That told me one thing clearly. Whatever she and her new connections wanted, they wanted it before the official room could form around the truth. The week of the meeting, I lived like a man carrying a glass cup in both hands. I did not run. I did not show it to people. I did not set it down on unstable tables. I kept my days normal on the outside and tight on the inside. At work, I stayed focused. I checked the boiler room, walked the hallways, and closed work orders with clear notes. Trevor kept trying to pull me into side chats. He would stand too close and ask questions that sounded casual but were not. He asked if I had big plans. He asked if I was still happy here. He asked if I had been distracted lately. I answered in short sentences. I told him my work was current and documented. I told him I was available during my shift hours for building needs. Then I went back to what I was doing. Candace tried again, too. She cornered me by the elevators and said the building was getting worse. She said staff did not smile enough. She said she felt unsafe when people did not greet her warmly. I knew what she wanted. She wanted me to apologize for existing. I told her I would note her concern and that she should email management for service feedback. She looked annoyed, but she could not argue with a calm process. She walked away, and I could feel her anger behind me like heat. That same day, Omar asked if I was sleeping. I told him I was sleeping enough. He did not believe me, but he did not push. He just said I was doing the right thing by staying steady. He reminded me to keep my notes clean and to keep my voice calm, no matter what tone other people used. He said the loudest person in a room is often the person with the weakest facts. At home, Nina was watching me like she was watching a door she wanted to open. She tried a new approach. She stopped criticizing for a few days and started acting supportive. She cooked dinner. She asked if I wanted tea. She rubbed my shoulders once and said she missed feeling close to me. It would have felt nice if it had been real. But it felt timed. It felt like a mask she put on when she thought a camera might be present. She also started asking careful questions, not direct ones. Questions that sounded like curiosity. She asked where the meeting was. She asked who would be there. She asked if I needed a new suit. She asked if we should arrive together as a team. When I gave small answers, she said I was shutting her out. She said she was my wife and she deserved to know. I told her I understood her feelings. Then I told her my boundary again. I said I would share verified information at the right time. I said I would not be rushed by anyone, including my own home. Nina's eyes narrowed. She said I was becoming cold. She said people were going to take advantage of me if I kept acting like a timid man. I did not reply to that label. I only said I was acting like a careful man. I told her careful men keep what is theirs. That night, I slept on the couch. I did not announce it. I just took a blanket and a pillow and settled in the living room. Nina did not stop me. She stood in the doorway and watched like she was judging a stranger. Then she went into the bedroom and shut the door. The click of that door was not loud, but it sounded final. The next morning, I left early and went to a small coffee shop a few blocks from the building I worked in. It was not fancy. It had simple tables, quiet music, and a smell of baked bread. I chose it because it felt normal. Normal places make it easier to think. I met Iris there. Iris Klein was a lawyer Omar knew through his cousin. She was not flashy. She wore plain clothes and carried a thin bag. Her voice was calm, and her eyes did not jump around the room. When she spoke, she did not perform. She focused. I did not hand her any dramatic folder. I did not put papers on the table. I only explained what happened in order. DNA kit, professional call, formal email, pressure messages, Nina's behavior, the hotel lounge contact, the rushed signature folder that showed up in my kitchen. I told her I had a timeline and screenshots stored. I told her I wanted to handle it properly and stay inside the rules. Iris listened without interrupting. When I finished, she asked simple questions. Dates, times, what words were used, who introduced who, what I replied. I answered as clearly as I could. Iris nodded once and told me two things. First, she told me not to sign anything presented by helpful strangers. Second, she told me to keep communication clean and short. She said I should not try to argue my way into respect in rooms full of power. She said I should let process create the pressure, not my emotions. She said the safest move for a calm man is to stay calm and let systems speak. I asked her what I should do about Nina. Iris told me not to fight at home. She said home fights create confusion and confusion creates mistakes. She said if Nina pushed, I should repeat the same boundary and stop talking. She said I should assume anything I said could be repeated to someone else. She said I should keep my notes private and my routine steady. Before we stood up, Iris told me to prepare for social pressure at the meeting. She said people might act friendly. She said people might act offended. She said people might try to make me speak too much so they could twist my words. She told me to breathe, to answer only what I was asked, and to let the official people lead. When I left the coffee shop, I felt lighter. Not because everything was solved, but because I was no longer alone in my thinking. I had a professional voice in my ear telling me that calm was not weakness. Calm was control. Over the next few days, Nina became impatient again. The sweetness faded. She started making small comments with sharp edges. She said it was strange that I met someone for coffee and did not tell her. I told her I met a friend. She said friends do not make you more secretive. I told her privacy is not betrayal. She said it is when you hide money and plans. I did not correct her directly. I only said I was still paying the household basics and I was not making big moves without thinking. Nina said thinking too much is how people miss their moment. Then she said something that made the air feel cold. She said, Ronan Voss was a man who did not miss moments. I asked her again how she was connected to him. Nina said it did not matter. She said what mattered was that powerful families protect their own. She said if I tried to force myself into that world, I would get hurt in ways I could not afford. Then she added that a smart man would accept guidance and take a smaller piece with dignity instead of trying to take everything and getting pushed out. I kept my voice flat and asked her why she was talking like I already had a piece. Nina said she was being realistic. She said I did not belong in that world. She said my life proved it. Then she glanced around our apartment like she was pointing at evidence. That was the moment I stopped hoping she would return to the woman I first met. I did not feel rage. I felt a clean separation inside me. Nina was not confused. Nina was choosing a side, and her side was not mine. The day before the board meeting, I went through my routine one more time. I checked my phone folder and confirmed my backups were current. I updated my notebook timeline with short entries. I laid out simple clothes for the morning. Nothing expensive, nothing sloppy, clean, neutral, steady. I also called my adoptive parents again. This time I told them there was a formal meeting related to the DNA match. I did not share names or details. I only told them I might learn big things soon, and I wanted them to hear it from me, not from rumors. My mother said she was proud of me for staying grounded. My father told me to remember who raised me. He said money and status can change a room, but they do not change the truth. That night, Nina tried one last push. She came into the living room and sat close to me. She said she did not want us to fight. She said she wanted us to be united. She said whatever happened, we should present a strong image. She said people respect couples who look solid. Then she asked if she could come with me to the meeting. I told her no, in a calm voice. I said this was not a social event. I said it was a formal process. Nina's face tightened. She asked if I was ashamed of her. I told her I was not ashamed. I told her I was protecting the process from noise. Nina said I was calling her noise. I told her I was calling pressure noise. I told her I would not bring pressure into a room that needed facts. Nina stood up fast and said I was making a mistake. She said I would regret treating her like a stranger. I said I was not treating her like a stranger. I was treating the situation like it mattered. Nina shook her head and walked away. I stayed on the couch and listened to her footsteps fade. I did not chase her. I did not negotiate. I had already chosen the path I was taking. The next morning, I left early. The sky was pale, and the air felt sharp. I took a train into the business district. I watched people in suits scroll on their phones, half awake, already thinking about money and power. I looked down at my hands and saw the same hands that fixed boilers and replaced valves. I reminded myself that steady hands are useful everywhere. When I arrived at the headquarters building, the lobby was tall and bright. Glass, stone, quiet voices. A receptionist checked my name and gave me a visitor badge. No one smiled too wide. No one looked down on me. They treated me like a scheduled person, and that was enough. In the elevator, my reflection looked normal. Not rich, not important. Just a man who showed up. When the doors opened on the board level, I stepped out and followed the signs to the meeting area. I could hear low conversation behind the closed doors. I adjusted my collar once, took a slow breath, and walked in with my shoulders level. I greeted the people I was directed to greet, took the seat I was given, and placed my phone face down on the table. Then I waited, calm and quiet, letting the room settle into its own rules. The boardroom felt colder than the lobby downstairs, not in temperature, but in attention. Everyone had a notepad, a glass of water, and a face that did not give away much. I sat straight, kept my hands still, and waited for the meeting to start. A woman from the legal office introduced herself and said this session was about identity confirmation and estate transition. She said the process had safeguards because there had been an attempt to change the beneficiary list after the founder's final instructions were already recorded. Ronan sat 2 seats away from me, dressed like he owned the building. He looked at me once, and then looked away, like I was a temporary problem. Nina was not in the room, but I could feel her presence anyway, like pressure left behind in the air. The legal team presented the confirmation steps in plain language. They explained the match, the verification chain, and the official results. They stated clearly that I was the only son and the primary beneficiary. They listed what was assigned to me: the penthouse, the yacht, the company shares, and the private collection. Ronan interrupted and said the situation was confusing and risky, and that the board should pause. The board chair asked him to stop and let the professionals finish. Then the attorney explained the attempted removal. She said the request came through a side channel, pushed as administrative cleanup, and tied to a rushed set of signature pages. Iris spoke next and walked the room through my timeline: the unknown texts, the hotel introduction, and the folder placed on my kitchen table. The attorney said the names behind the pressure matched Ronan's circle. The board chair told compliance to begin an internal review immediately and directed security to revoke Ronan's building access during the meeting. Ronan stood up and argued, but his badge stopped working when he tried to exit and re-enter. The board chair looked at me, slid a folder across the table, and said the transition was effective now.